This is your next essay assignment for College in the Schools, Composition 1, Writing 1120 through UMD. This is your literature review in annotated bibliography. In many ways, this paper will be the second most challenging one that you'll do, minus the actual final research paper, and in some senses could be the equivalent. But having said that, if done right, and it's listed on this assignment sheet when we get to it, if done right and paid close attention to, this paper will save you a considerable amount of work when it does come time for the actual research paper, and you will use and or recycle in many ways the ideas from this paper. So pay close attention as I give these directions. So it's listed here. We should be at a point in your research. You've had time in class, you've taken a trip to the UMD library, they've shown you how to access their databases. You really should know at this point almost both sides of your topic and pretty much be close to done with your research. Notice I said close to done, not fully done. So this paper should be developed for those reasons. So this is what the literature review portion is. Notice there's a second part in annotated bibliography. We'll get to that momentarily. We'll talk about the literature review. First step says that you should thoroughly read, analyze, and assimilate your sources. I'm putting a word out there, assimilate. Begin to incorporate ideas into your main arguments. At this point in your research, then, you should know what your main arguments and areas of support will be, and you should be taking information from reputable sources and fitting those into your arguments, in many ways becoming your arguments, of course, with citations. You should go through all of your current sources and have taken notes. You really should have read through them and decided exactly what's best to take from them. And then this part, decide upon as of now. Notice it's in parentheses, as of now. There's still time to change all the way up until the final draft of your research paper. The main arguments on both sides of the argument you will be covering for your final research paper. Notice both sides of the argument. Your research question, you will cover both sides. It says fit the information that you have taken in notes and assimilated into those arguments. Basically, you've made your claim, you've answered the research question, you've broken it down into main areas of support, and you fit the information within that from these notes. Then it comes time for the paper. You'll have an introductory section. It says state your topic and the main arguments you have found to this point, and you should not state your thesis. This is not your research paper yet. Once again, all you're doing is stating your topic and the main arguments, both for and against. The way that it should work for your research question is you have one of your main arguments, what's the argument against? One of your main arguments, what's the argument against? Almost like your comparison contrast essay. Do you see now how these papers build upon themselves? Do not state your thesis. You're not answering the research question. You're just stating the main arguments. Your body paragraphs then. It says make a heading for each main argument you have found so far. Under each heading, summarize, paraphrase the main pieces of information you have discovered to this point. And that would be both for and against. So I'm just going to stay with the same vein and ideas of topic that I've gone over before in previous video lessons, ISIS and Iraq. If your research question is, should the United States intervene with actual boots on the ground? And your answer is yes to that. What are your main arguments in favor of that without stating that in your thesis? And what are the counter arguments to those? And so it does say to summarize and paraphrase. You do not have to write 50 pages for this. It should be a substantial paragraph because, again, it's just a review of the literature, not covering everything out there. You're merely going through the main claims and summarizing them. If you were to do this, this is a very detailed and elaborate pre-write for what will eventually become your research paper, hence why we do it. How many paragraphs will that be? Don't know. Depends on, at this point, how many arguments and main areas of support you have. Conclusion, discuss what further research is needed. And this is very important. Make a decision at the end of this. What more do you need to know? Is there one area of support where you feel you're the weakest and you need to expand on? That's your decision. It's listed there. Notice it's in bold with multiple stars. If this is done right, it's a great pre-write, and much of it will be reused, so it's not purposeless. As a matter of fact, much of the information of this could be taken from, in some ways, your comparison contrast essay. Do you notice that if you spend time building upon each other, these essays then can be loaned back and forth? Attached to this then will be an annotated bibliography. Notice it's not a works cited, this is different. It's called an annotated bibliography. Please read through these closely, because if at least 5 of your entries for your literature review will be annotated. Notice it says 5 of them will be annotated. If you use more than 5 sources for your literature review, you're only required to annotate 5 of them. So if you have 7 sources, you annotate 5 of them. The other 2 will simply be the citation like you've done previously. There's a sample. Notice how it looks. This is the citation as you've always done in the world of MLA. After it, in brackets, notice, in brackets is a 3 to 4 sentence summary in many ways of what the entire article is about. This is also forcing you to do this because it's forcing you to look specifically at your research and to summarize it. And at some point in your further educational careers, you might be asked to do an annotated bibliography, and now you've seen it. So once again, it's your citation like you've always done it. You've done this hundreds of times. You should be well versed in the world of MLA. And then behind it, still, if you look, with a hanging tab, in brackets, is a summary of the article or the source itself. You'll have 5 of these. If you have 8 sources, you'll have 5 of these, and then the other 3 sources you don't have to annotate. It will just be the citation itself. This will be attached to this literature review. This is very, very close to what you'll end up doing for your argumentative, your final research paper. So once again, when you do this part, the body paragraphs, you're not covering every piece of information. You're given a review, a general overview of what you found so far in an organized fashion. It's basically like the pre-write to your argument. Notice that you aren't stating your thesis in the introductory paragraph. You're merely stating the topic and the main arguments for and against. That final decision of your thesis will be in the actual research paper. This is your lit review and annotated bibliography. Should you have questions, you can obviously get in touch with me through Google Classroom. You could ask questions in class or stop in before school or after school.